Well, welcome everyone. I'm Dave Schuler. I have the honor of serving as superintendent of High School District 214, and we're thrilled to be here today. Since the outbreak of the Covid-19, District 214 has stepped up in many ways. Our community has raised over $80,000 to provide opportunities for our children and families in need. Teachers from several of our schools, including right here at Rolling Meadows, have sewed hundreds of masks to provide to essential workers. Our career and tech ed teachers from across the district have produced over 8,000 face shields in partnership with Harper College for our emergency responders and our essential workers as well. And this is another opportunity here today to be able to partner to make our community and our state more safe. And so it's been an incredible honor to work with the National Guard. It's been an incredible honor with the school community being so positive about providing another service to enhance the safety of our local community and across the state. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the comments from my esteemed colleagues that are behind me. Mayor?
Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Joe Gallo, Mayor of Rolling Meadows. Thank you for attending today's events. Distinguished guests, thank you as well. Like a lot of us here, I hope to walk away from today's event with a greater understanding of this test site and appreciate the value that it will deliver to those who need it. I know it goes without saying that based on our current circumstance, the need for such a facility is slightly disheartening and albeit surreal. However, efforts like these, they give me some hope that we're on our way to controlling this virus rather than allowing this virus to control us any longer. When the news of this particular test site first came to the attention of residents last week, a number of them did voice concerns. Some expressed more legitimate concerns than others, and while I'm not saying that one person's concern is more valid or legitimate than another's, what I am saying is the overall reaction was concern itself. Residents were concerned because they weren't given a voice necessarily in this matter. There was a sense of shock when they first heard about it, whether or not this site should be erected at this particular location, or that the influx of traffic might cause greater burden to those who live in the close proximity, and also how this might strain our local first responders who may be dispatched to manage logistics or other areas of more critical nature while this site remains functional. And whenever something happens, I know the knee-jerk reaction is to ask why. And rather than ask why from a place of victimization or pessimism, I would just encourage folks to ask why from a place of optimism and a place of security. So while the test site may, for a short period of time, potentially see greater traffic counts or require more attention from our first responders, we should topographically recognize that this location and our city, Rolling Meadows, is both crucial and conveniently located to serve so many people. So our small town can play a big role in being part of the solution, and it's my hope that this opportunity will enable us to recognize that and see so many people served with value. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Congressman Sean Caston from Illinois 6th District. I think, as the mayor said, it's a bit surreal to be out here in these moments and all socially distanced from each other. But I think we've all known since the start of this crisis that the solution to this is going to be testing, testing, testing. You cannot get this under control unless you have the data to know where it is, who is infected, who is recovered. We have passed now, I'm losing track, I think 5 bills in the House, certainly 4 overall, to deal with this crisis, and the very first one was focused on testing. The third bill, which was the CARES Act, provided funding to make sure that nobody would have to pay for that testing, and the most recent one that we passed in the House, which of course still has to get to the Senate, would make sure that all the money flows down to the state level to cover these resources. I am so grateful for the Army National Guard for setting this up, for the Illinois Department of Public Health for setting this up, because once we have this facilities like this all over the country, but facilities like this here in Rolling Meadows, anybody can get a test. We've talked about that for a long time. It's finally going to be true here that if you want a test, if you're concerned, come in. The virus doesn't discriminate. Doesn't care who you voted for, doesn't care what the color of your skin is, doesn't care what your citizenship status is. This facility doesn't either. Because the only way that we all get healthy again is if the virus, which doesn't, again, discriminate, doesn't have places to continue. So if you have concerns, come down. Thanks to everybody for setting this up, and we will get through this together. And I just thank everybody. Looking around at all these folks from the Guard, there are so many people right now in our society who need a shoulder to lean on, and I thank you all for providing shoulders. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Brigadier General Rich Neely, the Adjutant General and the Commander for the Illinois National Guard. Thank you for joining us this afternoon and coming out to the site. First of all, I'd really like to take a moment and thank the Congressman for his support of this location. Obviously, the Mayor, because we don't do this independently, although the National Guard is out here kind of running the site. It's a collaborative effort, and it takes those first responders that the Mayor spoke of to manage traffic and to support us through this. And most of all, to the great support we've got from the Rolling Meadows High School. It's just been phenomenal from day one, getting in here on location and making sure the troops have what they need. We can't do this. This is our 10th community-based test site that we've stood up as the National Guard. And we've stood them up, many of them here in Northern Illinois and some in Southern Illinois, Central Illinois. But we can't do that without the support of, obviously, the state of Illinois, the Illinois Department of Public Health, for, providing the test capability and the serums and stuff, working with the local health department to pull that together. As well as the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, who's really the power behind getting the incident commanders out here that support us on site. We know when we show up to one of these areas that it takes a group, and that incident commander is the one that's really in charge of the local area. So we appreciate all that support that happens. One thing I want to talk about is, this new testing site provides a lot of opportunities, as the Congressman spoke to. It gives us an opportunity to test more in the community. And so when a patron shows up at this test site, they can expect a couple things. One, they'll be greeted by a health official and someone in this uniform for the Illinois National Guard. And the first thing I would say is, no one should be intimidated by the uniform. Sometimes if you drive up and you're not used to the military, you're like, what am I driving into? And the National Guard is your neighbors. We're your friends. We live in your local community. We're part of the U.S. Air Force or the U.S. Army, depending on the service. And we come out and support our state, our communities when called upon. So when they pull up here, when people of the community come up to get this test, just recognize that you'll see people in uniform, and that's what we do. This is the uniform we wear. They'll be asked a few questions, and then they'll be directed into a lane for testing. And one of the first things they'll do is someone will ask them some questions so they can fill out the form. And the form's really about to collect the information. How do we get the information back to you about your test? And to make sure we have the right address and all those kind of things. As the Congressman and I spoke a little bit earlier, on that form is an address and a zip code, so we can get the results back. But it also helps us identify where we have those positive tests or negative tests, for that matter, across the state. And it helps us identify and understand where we need more testing at and whether or not we have the capacity that's needed. As Congressman said, test. That's how we get out of this. And so as we bring people in, we'll go ahead and fill that paperwork out. We're always asking when you're operating a vehicle to operate it very slowly in the area. We'll have a lot of our soldiers moving around amongst those vehicles, collecting information, as well as passing out a form that kind of talks about the guidelines, talks about the tests that they're being administered, and gives them that information. And we'll collect that information. We'll ask them to leave the windows rolled up so that they, if they are positive, that our guardsmen aren't exposed. And they'll ask them to show some identification so that they can ensure they get the data back to them, to the right address and that. And it also helps communicate name and everything else. The reason they'll either have them leave the window rolled up or ask them through a rear window, is so that that direct contact is limited between someone that might be positive for COVID. And then they'll ask each time they stop, they'll have the member shut off their vehicle. Again, that's a safety concern. And then we'll have them move forward for the actual test. And at this location, we'll have a individual swab where the member will actually they'll be provided the packet, and they'll actually put the swab in their own nose and give direction on how to test that. It's a little bit different than some of the original swabs that there. And then we'll go ahead and at that time they'll be done, and hopefully we'll have have the results back, ranging somewhere between 3 to 5 days, depending on the test location and the site. As the governor spoke to the last couple days, we're just incredibly happy to see the amount of capacity that Illinois has continued to increase with testing. We're now leading the nation, and it's the whole community. It's the medical community. It's the labs that have supported this. It's the hospitals that supported this, and the National Guard plays a real small part in that, in our capability that we're bringing out to the community. So we're very excited to see that capacity go up. We're averaging over 20,000 a day, and we're the third state in the nation, but for I think Rhode Island and Connecticut ahead of us. So for the major population state, we're number one in the nation, and we're really proud of that and how the communities come together to support. So again, thank you today for joining us for the opening. Tests are free. We encourage people that don't feel well, our first responders that need regular testing, to come out and get the test, and we'll take good care of you. Thank you.
I'm going to open it up for any questions right now. If you have a question, please just name who you're addressing it to, and then you'll have one follow-up question. So we'll start here with you, sir.
Brigadier General,
Yes.
any rough ideas as to estimate of how many you think you could accommodate per day, and then how long will this continue?
Yeah, so we're able to go up to 750 a day. And so we have that capacity. And what's kind of the challenge in this testing environment is when you open one of these up, you really don't know what the turnout's going to be. And so across the state, we've had different varying degrees of turnout. And so our Markham location and our Harwood Heights location, they're hitting 750 every day. And our guardsmen are doing a great job with keeping up with it. So it'll be interesting to see. The city's also has a goal of 10,000, and so we're seeing more and more testing capacity across the city, which may create some variations in this testing location.
How long will this continue?
Well, that's hard to say for the foreseeable future. I mean, we're the governor's focus right now is to try to get testing up as high as we possibly can, and so we're looking for the right locations. What we're seeing though is as hospitals bring back capacity, as we health centers and those kind of locations bring in this capacity, and we'll probably see contract capability that'll come in. We'll see this change over time. The National Guard is called in during emergencies, and we really kind of jump into the breach when an emergency occurs, and that's what we're doing here. We're getting it up and running. Our guardsmen, their full-time job is doing something else, right? My public affairs officer over here is an attorney full-time, and so I'm pulling him away from an employer. So my job is to get them back to their civilian lives, back to their civilian careers as soon as possible, and for us to turn this over to other operations. So if it's not us, it'll be someone else filling that capacity in the community. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, I have two questions. The first is for Brigadier General Howard.
Hello.
I just had a question on the site selection. This area, this community is home to a large sector of Latino immigrants, in particular. If you look at our demographics, sadly, at some very high rates.
Right.
Taking into consideration when selecting the sites, where folks could actually walk over perhaps.
Right. So this is that was absolutely taken into consideration. The Illinois Department of Public Health, working through the governor's office, Director Dr. Gaziki is working closely looking at these maybe underserved communities that may need more testing, as well to try to make sure that we have that capacity. And that's a great question about our Spanish-speaking communities. We try to have our guardsmen that are in here in case someone their primary language is Spanish and they're not able to their English is maybe they're still working on that. We have Spanish speakers a lot of times in our formations, and so they'll come up and try to support those that may come in and have some language challenges. We also, depending on the site, we have other Polish and Korean and some of those other languages. So we'll try to support that as much as possible. Thank you.
Question for Dr. Schuler. Dr. Schuler, it sounds like Rolling Meadows High School is the first high school in the state to have a testing site. I'm told they approached you, and I'm just interested in your initial reaction.
Well, our initial reaction when asked and offered was absolutely. And whatever we can do to help our community and help our community become safe quicker, we're all about as a school district and a school district community. And this is going to benefit our students, our parents, their friends and neighbors. It was an absolute no-brainer for us to say anything other than let's get it done. And knowing you're partnering with the Illinois National Guard, you know it's going to be done right. And so it was an opportunity for us to serve our community.
Questions from anyone else? Yes, go back.
Brigadier General, please. There were some reports of possible missing tests in Harwood Heights. I was just wondering how you would guarantee that tests won't get lost. Like, there's so many people coming through here. What's the protocol so that all those tests get to where they need to go?
Well, so the first part of that question again, can you phrase that about Harwood?
There were reports of missing tests in Harwood Heights.
Okay.
Like that people got the test but then never got the results, and
right.
were told that a lot of tests got
right.
lost.
So we've continued to work through that process of gathering how we gather the test, but the challenge is we've ramped up so quickly with the labs, and so there's been a lot of work done with the contractors and those at that end that are receiving those to ensure that doesn't happen in the future. And so that's been one of those, as we've grown the need for testing, in some cases there was new processes that had to be put in place. So I know the Illinois Department of Public Health is working through those contract processes and work very closely with those companies to go back and try to identify those issues and correct them. And it's, as far as I know, we haven't had any for quite a while, any of those challenges. So we're in about month 2 of testing. This is our 10th location to open, and that's in addition to all the other locations across the state. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. One point of clarification I do want to go back to is that this is a drive-up location right now, so we don't have any walk-up capability here. So this location is primarily drive-up. Okay, thank you.